Man, that intro took forever. I was like, God
It
damn.
took forever. It was cool, but it took forever. I'll take
It
like
was
five
cool
seconds.
at first it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then after like 10 seconds, I'm like,
I'm like, bro, this is too much. Yeah, for real.
I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of like looking around. I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah. I was drinking water. I was checking my phone. I was like, what?
all right. So
Yeah.
this is my first actually podcast like this.
Okay.
Um, how should I call you? Like, Edward, Esquire, Mr.
Yeah.
Reyes,
No, Eddie Reyes is fine, and
Eddie
attorney.
Reyes. Okay, I like
Yeah,
that.
attorney Edward Reyes, Eddie Reyes.
All right. So how let's you introduce yourself. You tell me a little bit about you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. So I'm an attorney here in Tampa, Florida. I've been an attorney for almost 8 years. Before that, I owned a doctor's office doing personal injury. So I've been in this business for 25 years. I'm married. I have two kids. My wife and my oldest daughter just became an attorney. That was kind of cool. They went to school together. And
Wow,
my
that's cool.
youngest is in college right now. She's looking for. Eventually, she'll probably go to law school too. So we'll see.
That's awesome when your kids actually follow your path. That's
Yeah,
really
bro. Yeah. So at first they were. My oldest daughter was like, I don't know, Dad, because I was, when you're building a business, you actually you got to focus on building your business, so you don't pay yourself as much at first because you're reinvesting back into your own business.
correct.
So my oldest was like, I don't know, Dad. It doesn't seem like you make that much money. I'm like, well,
You're broke, Dad. You can't buy me what I need.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You broke, Dad. She's like, I have more money saved than you have. I'm like, you don't understand. I said, you don't get it. All the money I'm making, I'm reinvesting back on building something bigger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Hmm.
then when she started seeing the actual deposits come in after a while, she's like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's not a bad thing, this lawyer gig.
Yeah. It's funny you said that because I have my son working in my shop. So
Yeah,
we have two different careers, but we both business owners. And my shop now, my son works with me, and he's now learning more the business part of it. And he wants to be a tattoo artist. He's a piercer. He first used to be counter administration, and then from there he asked me to be a piercer, and then now he's like learning, taking art and learning all the art stuff
awesome.
regarding. The good thing, like we know our kids, we try not to push them.
Yeah,
We don't push them because we realize the more we push them, they're just like kind of run away from it. So we're just like, I just sit behind him and I watch him, and then he'll come to me, he like ask for a critique, like, "Hey, Pop, what do you think about this art piece?" And I'm really hard on him, on that part. It's like,
yeah.
listen, what is this? So
Well,
you
that's
have
good.
to.
But you're perfecting his skill. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not
Mhm.
hard on him, the real road's not going to treat him good. Like you
Correct.
need to be hard on him that way. Because listen, there's no participation. There's no participation trophies. Like you have to be, hard on
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And stuff, you know?
Correct,
Yeah, man.
correct. So, a little bit, this podcast that we're doing, this video we're doing, this is my first that I'm putting together, and it's
Yeah,
cool that I'm doing it with you. And reason why, so everybody out there, they know you're one of the sponsors for Ink Mania Fest,
true.
and it was cool. I approached you. I knew you years ago. I met
Yeah,
you here at my plaza. One of the guys who they were doing like social meetings for small entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And
yeah,
we
yeah,
met, and I was trying to find an attorney. I was like, I need to get an attorney for this. I'm trying to get somebody for a sponsor, and I reached out to different ones. And the funny thing, you kept on popping up. I see you in a bus. I see you in a billboard. I
yeah,
see
yeah,
you in a freaking bus stop. See,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
was like, man, this guy's face keeps popping up. Something's telling me to reach out to him. And then I was like, that's when I go into social media, Facebook, and I was like, hey, you want to be involved in this? And he's like, oh, tell me more about
yeah,
it.
man. It's different though, man. But like you said, like when we ate lunch or a week or two ago,
Correct.
um, it's not just about ink. It's not about tattoos. It's about art. It's about different things like genres, music, art, graffiti,
Hmm.
tattoos. So it kind of changed my perspective of what the event was even about. You know, I mean, at
Hmm.
first I thought, like tattoo artists doing tattoos,
Correct.
and so I think that what you're doing is great, man. You're spreading awareness. It's more of a Renaissance type festival, Renaissance man kind of situation than just what people assume what might be there. You know?
And the Latin in me, I like the festival, so I want that fest kind of feeling. I wanted to bring it out where I could bring the whole demographics of everything because there's so many tattoo conventions out there that it
Yeah,
becomes redundant. It's like, oh, another tattoo convention. So I want somebody like you who doesn't have a tattoo
yeah.
come in and be like, and that's what the cool thing is. It's like I bring you to the event, you see how it is, it opens doors, and then suddenly from nowhere you get curious. That little thing comes inside. You're like, this thing is not that bad. And I like that artist. I like that, so I open a door where you finally say, hey, I want to get a piece done because I like this guy that's going to be there. And you like the work he does. So, it
Well,
opens a lot of doors on that way.
well, at very minimum, you grow an appreciation for the art because I mean, as we spoke about for years, people demonized tattoos. They thought it was like for gangsters. They thought it was for people with low status. But as we
Hmm.
know, that's not the case. I mean,
No.
so I mean, I think that what you're doing is bringing great awareness, and that way it could maybe change people's perspective on what it is. You
Hmm.
know,
So the funny thing, the people out there, you come from the same neighborhood. You were, raised around the same neighborhood that I was. I mean, we're a couple years difference, but we're still 90s kids. The 90s kids, we were still hanging out around here in Tampa. We watched Tampa grow. We watched this city grow. I love Tampa. Love everything about it. I hate the traffic now. There's the good and bad. I mean, if you want more people, more business, you're gonna have to deal with the traffic. You know what I'm saying?
true.
But the thing funny is that when it comes to the tattoo world, you were telling me that you were interested in getting one at
I
first.
was.
Uh-huh.
I was, and the thing is that it seems like such a big commitment, right? Like you're
It's almost
you
like
know,
marriage.
yeah, like Mary, like you put it on, you like what's even worse because once you put it on, it's permanent. And in marriage, you can
Yeah.
get divorced. So
But that
I'm
scar of you losing money is like permanent, like there.
permanent forever. Like you better like what you put on your body, right?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, especially for somebody getting into it or what have not, because at the end of the day, you only have one body, so you got to make sure that what you put on it is symbolic to you in some way. And when I was younger, I used to always say, "Oh, I like to get you know like the I guess like the tramp stamp, but the arm thing for guys, like the
Oh man, don't say that.
man, well,
The thing gotta have a button. I'll be like, boo. That's the
it would be a boo, it would be a boo button right now, right?
yeah, because I was like, wow, that was
That-
the time of the tribal band.
that's
They
what it
called it.
was.
That's what it was. It was the tribal band. I
Yeah.
remember the shop I used to work at. I forgot who was. I think it was a wrestler or somebody who came out with it, and this whole tribal, like this one little tribal band just around the arm was like the coolest thing, and everybody wanted. It was like the
Bro,
masculine tramp stamp. You
that's
know.
exactly what it was. Exactly what
Yeah.
it was. And I kept saying to myself, you know what? When I get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger, I'll do it. And then
Uh-huh.
after a while, I got to a point that it's not that important anymore. But for the longest time, that was kind of my thing.
Uh-huh.
Listen, man, I don't have any right now, but if I ever did have one, I would want to do like a whole arm, like a sleeve. Like I don't know, like I go from like a little bit to like the whole sleeve. If I ever
Well,
did one,
let me tell you something. The skills that's out there now, it's freaking crazy. I mean, the stuff that they do. That's why I mean, that's one big reason that I kind of stepped down in tattooing, because they went beyond. And to get to that level, a lot of these artists, they have art background, so they're like fine artists. So, when I first started, it was like, young guys, we were graphers or we would draw here and there. We're like, oh, this is something else we could get into, and
true,
it was easier. Now, as these guys are really, really training themselves to use this as a career, not just
yeah,
as a trade. So,
That's
and
awesome.
these guys are making, I mean, they're full corporation making over $100,000. They're
Wow,
killing it. They're
that's
killing
awesome.
the tattoo industry is like it's another thing now. It's changed. You got guys making a lot of money.
Well, and when you think about it, like people pay on a canvas millions of dollars to have an art piece on a canvas, like for a
Hmm.
painter or whatever the case is, right?
Hmm.
Well, what's the most precious canvas that we have is our body.
Hmm.
So, like, if someone's
I,
gonna
I
pay
like
some,
I like how you say that. Well, you we gotta tag that right there. We just say the most precious canvas is our body. We gotta.
yeah, it's true. We only
That's
got one,
awesome.
and
Hmm.
we're gonna have it forever
Yeah,
until in our lives at least. So I
that,
think it is important to have a skill set, not have somebody that just trying to figure out how to, how to do a tattoo on your body. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like,
that's how it was. Most
yeah,
of mine's on my body. Friends of mine at the shop, and we got bored, and we're like, "Hey, let's work on me." So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's that's a difference. But now it's like I wish I could take things back, and it's like some of this stuff that these guys are doing on themselves is just crazy.
No,
The
it,
realism,
it's awful.
yeah.
Man, talk about '90s kids, man. Yeah, like we grew up a little bit different than a lot of kids now. I mean, we didn't have
Hmm.
cell phones and we didn't have
We
those
had
pagers,
we had
codes,
pagers, we had beepers.
beepers. Yeah, beepers, man. The
We
codes,
had beep but the
that.
funny thing, we were very, we were creative. We had beepers, but we had codes in them. We knew
Yep,
exactly what was going on. It was like we knew the payphones, which payphones were around. We had codes where to go to what payphone,
yeah.
and it was like it was really simple. So
My code was 9. So like my identifier was 9. So like whatever it was 9. I don't know why we picked 9, but that
mhm.
was my identifier.
Mine was
And
3.
3.
Mine was
That's
3.
wild, bro. That's just
So they
wild.
knew when I paged, I put 3 in the end, and they were like, "Oh, okay." They was like, "All right, we know who he's at."
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
and I had 2 pagers, so it
Okay.
was funny. I had 2 pagers when I was young. I thought I was a pimp, I was at 2 pagers. And it's like, it's like now having 2 phones. It's like, "Oh shit, he's got 2
Yeah.
phones." Now you had
Yeah,
2 pagers.
must be important. Yeah, 2 pages to phone. And
Yeah.
the thing with a pager, bro, like I used to we used to sell pagers. Like we used to get them and we used to reprogram and sell pagers and just little things that we would do amongst friends in the street. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes pages would be found,
Mhm.
and we would just recycle them to somebody else, you
I
know?
remember those places. That was funny because you take me back because there were a couple guys that had little pager companies, and
Yeah,
you could tell they were slick because they would go in there they will give you money to return pagers,
yep.
and they were like you say found,
They were
and
found.
yeah, they knew what they were doing, and they recode them, and they give you money. They give you like $10, $15, and boom, you keep going. Every time you bring a pager, they give you $10, $15, and you know
And
that's
bro,
a
$10 may not made a big difference now in today's dollars, but $10, $50, you go to McDonald's, you get all types of food, man. Back in the day,
yeah.
dollar, 59-cent burgers,
You no, what we used to do, we hang out in the mall. You hang out in
Tempe
the mall.
Mall,
Yeah,
Tempe
yeah,
Mall.
the Tampa
Not,
Bay
not,
Mall. You
yeah,
hang
yeah,
out, you made like $40, and you hang out at the mall for a little bit. You think
yeah,
you're
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You buy a girl a drink, buy her a drink
Yo,
and stuff
like a soda at the
like
at the
a Slurpee or something.
man. Talking about Tempe Mall, bro. Me and my friend Edwin, he used to go to Pierce,
Uh-huh.
and
Just like me. So we all went to Pierce.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So he took he borrowed the directory, school directory, and we would play this game. Well, not play this game, but we would telemarket like we were young, like telemarketers, and call every girl that sounded hot on the uh, on the
The
thing,
line.
the
Uh-huh.
line. So we would call her and call that person like, "Yo, we would." Edward's name was Joey, and I forgot what my name was, but we gave each other these alias names, and we'd have girls go to the Tempe Mall and say, "Yeah, we're wearing like red," and let's say we're wearing like a black shirt, right? And then
Mhm.
the girl would tell us what they're wearing, so they would show up at the mall, and we would sit there and watch them if they're looking lost at the mall. If they look good, we'll approach them, If they look bad, we would say, "Oh yeah, that sucks," leave them there. And so we
You
would scout it. We would
you would
telemarket and
make
get it, huh?
the funny thing about that, that was actually for sure no catfish. You knew exactly what you got in front of you. So
No, no catfish,
there
no catfish. Yeah,
was no catfish there. You knew what kind of girls it was there. If it sound hot and then they look beat up, you were
yeah.
like, okay, no, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, yeah, no filters. And it would sucks because now thinking about it, because as a parent, I would hate someone to do it to my daughters. That imagine my daughter said, "Hey, I'm going to go to the mall and meet some guy." One, that would not work regardless.
Yeah.
But let's say it did, and they go to
Hmm.
the mall and the guy stands them up. I'm like, "Boy, what a piece of crap that guy is." You know what I'm saying?
But then you
Like,
then you think back and you're like, damn, I used to do that.
bro, some of the things I used to do, like I think about it, I'm like, wow, that was really bad. Teenagers, we do stupid shit sometimes.
You know, the funny thing, Eddie, is that we say these stories, we talk about this, we look at our kids. I like to know their stories.
Yeah,
When they get my age, it's going to be different. Their technology is different. Everything's different. But, each one, our parents, unfortunately, they didn't have, what we have now. They could just say stories, but we come from, just human natures. We're storytellers. Now we
for
just
sure.
have technology now where we could say to millions of people and we could tell millions of people our story. So it's more ears to hear,
Yeah,
and that's the beautiful thing. And down the road it's going to get more and more because now social media is a lot crazier. I had to learn all that stuff. I mean, at 50, I'll be 53 in April 420,
yeah,
so I'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
53, and I've learned so much when it comes to technology. When like especially like social media, especially stuff like that. When I was, I remember I mentioned I 2 years ago I went through a kidney transplant. So
yeah.
for 1 year, I was doing dialysis, worse than ever. But
Wow.
that year I used it productive. I was on my computer, do what the 4 or 5 hours doing dialysis, and I was just learning. I was taking tutorials
Yeah,
how to deal with TikTok, with AI, with ChatGPT, with CapCut. I was just learning all this stuff. My AI is so weird because I got a name for it. I call it
yeah.
Donatello, and
That's
Donatello would like it would come back and be like, "Hey, Chino, how you doing?" And my everybody that I show them my AI, I say, "Hey, Donatello, what's going on? Hey, Chino, what can I help you with?"
that's hilarious. Well, I mean, it's like an artist. You know what I'm saying? Donatello. That because
that's what
Donatello's
that's what
art.
I looked at Donatello as a sculpture.
Yeah,
So basically, he's my AI is my sculpture. He's forming everything and designing everything I want. So that's why I gave it that name.
that's awesome.
So,
That's
yeah, so
awesome.
it was that. So it was that. So what else? I mean, like now, because we're not gonna make it too long, get people
Yeah,
falling asleep because you got the younger people going like
yeah.
falling
Like, what the
asleep
hell?
on it.
It's over two
Now,
minutes. Come on.
yeah, we got April 25th to the 27th. We have Ink Mania Fest. Now I know we got you in there, and as the sponsor, but I'm look forward to having you there in a little bit. I want you to explain a little bit about yourself. I know I don't want to get people bored and stuff like that, but in the same time, people know me already. I'm in the tattoo
Yeah,
world. My followers are knowing a lot of times, a lot of the new artists, they're more educated. They're knowing that legal stuff too, what's going on, that, by corporation, about this, about stuff like that. You tell me a little bit in the legal part, responsibilities a lot of artists should be aware of.
yeah. So I mean, I'm a personal injury lawyer by trade, but I can talk to you a little bit about liability a little bit more. One of the things that are important because I mean, again, I'm a plaintiff lawyer, so I sue people that injure other people. However, in the spirit of educating people out there, um, it's super important to get consent. And I know there's consent papers. Like you said, have the drawing laid out, have them sign it, take a picture of it, and then have them approve it after it's even been done, both on paper and also on your physical body. Because later on, people say, "Oh, I that's not what I wanted." If there's a way, if there was a way to have the picture and the actual end result side by side on one sheet of paper, and then they both sign it that they approve, and you want to put a hold harmless agreement on it. Like I indemnify and I hold harmless the artist, for any design issues.
Identify what you mean harmless. What do you mean with that?
Yeah, so indemnify is basically like is make them whole. So like for example, like if I sue them, I can't sue them because I've said, listen, I'm not going to sue you. I'm not going to go after nothing. Hold harmless. I'm not blaming you for nothing because I agreed to this and I'm not going to sue you.
Okay.
Uh, so the idea behind that is that you're trying to shield yourself from liability. Now, I say that to say if you, for whatever reason, caused used bad ink or something
Mhm.
like that, then of course you still have liability issues
Correct. But
because
that's
at the
like a responsibility of the artist, of that part.
responsibility of the
It's like
artist. Yeah,
knowing your tools. Yeah.
exactly. Because if you have something that's not good, it can get this, you know, at that
Mhm.
point, yes, I would.
Yeah,
You
you're
still have
not using the proper germicide, you're not cross-contaminating properly, you're not having an
to-
establishment that's clean enough, and you created a person that has an infection. Yes, that's your lack of yourself. So any waiver you have, you can flush that in the toilet.
you can. It's when it comes to those kind of issues, but
Mhm.
when it comes to design issues of like oh, I didn't like this design or it's not what I said. That's one way to shield yourself from it. I mean, you can still have liability, hold harmless
Mhm.
agreement, and all that stuff, even for the other concerns. But an attorney can breach through that you didn't, if you cross contaminated things of that nature, no matter what you write on the paper. Short of it
I'm
being
glad.
is
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because you remember I mentioned to you, I told you and everybody be aware. I've been a shop owner for 14 years, and I'm gonna let people understand that those waivers, I just learned a lesson. Those waivers, if you don't use them right, they're just garbage. They don't
is it
do they don't do anything. I had
nothing.
a I had a situation where I had a person come into my shop that got tattooed, and good thing about it, somebody told me, somebody like you actually gave me advice and told me, hey, listen, just don't do the waivers. Do more and beyond the waivers. So what we did was we do the waivers, we have their stencil, we have them sign their stencil, as well
Right.
as we take a picture of the tattoo. So we
Oh,
have
that's
back to back, and we keep those records. Well, we had a client that got tattooed here, and 4 or 5 months later, we get a lawsuit. We get somebody, claiming that they got a staph infection.
Mhm.
So what that does, it creates alarm with the health department. There's a lot that happens, with
Yeah,
that. We had to deal with it for about 2 or 3 months, dealing with legal situation, getting an attorney, trying to figure out what's going on. And later on, what really saved us was that little process that I did. Because in the end, what happened was that lady, they sent us the picture of the tattoo. Now keep in mind, she paid $100. $100. Everybody who's watching this, that
that's not
understands $100. That's a minimum, basically. That's something
nothing.
like this small. That's just
Yeah.
minimal tattoo. We looked at the time because we put the time where she paid and the time she came. It was like less than an hour of tattooing. Well, they show the picture where there was a MRSA. She had a MRSA staph infection. The tattoo was this big on her
Wow.
back. It was this big.
So you
I
got the hundred
looked at
dollars.
it and I actually laughed. I laughed and I was like, "This is not
Yeah.
what are they thinking?" So my attorney was like, "Wait, what's going on?" I said, "Listen, let me explain something to you. First of all, this is bull.
Yeah.
This doesn't work out. She paid $100. Look at it here. I understand you're an attorney. You don't know what prices of a tattooing is, but look at this. And I gave her the picture, show the image of the tattoo. We did all that. We didn't do that. So when we looked at the tattoo that she did, you could tell it was a cover up of the small one that we had on her.
Got it. So she went somewhere else and got a
She
cover up.
went to a house tattoo because the tattoo was horrible done. So
Got
she
it.
did it like in somebody's house or something,
I see.
and we realized that that was going on. So in that moment when that we I saw that, I was like, the lawyer and myself, we were like, this is not cool. This is not
Right.
gonna
Yeah.
work. This is not gonna work out. So she quickly sent the information to the other attorney, And
Yeah,
when she sent the information to the attorney, the other attorney didn't even think about it. He just sent a letter back. Well, we're going to dismiss this case. We're
yeah.
going to
I say,
dismiss. And I could have went ahead and countersued them and all that, but this lady had no money. What am I going to do with it? It's
yeah.
like,
You
it's
know,
what it is.
while you're talking, I just want to add to this real quick. Another way to shield yourself is as you guys go through a process, there's probably a hygienic process. There's probably a process how to store things and things like that. If you documented that stuff, so if you ever got sued, you can say, hey, listen, here's our protocols, here's our system, and this is how
Mhm,
we store things. This is the temperature, this is whatever the case is, that they write it, they put times, whatever. So
mhm.
if you ever go down this process, you can show, hey, we follow all correct procedures per whatever your
To
requirements
the
are.
guidelines, to the health department guidelines. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. So if you follow that, you can show that it's going to make the case a lot harder for somebody to prove that you did something wrong. I mean,
Well,
there's a double
the more to the story is watch your back and do it right because
facts. Yeah,
you know
there's that too.
if you're a business owner, and it's not even business owner, independent artists. We have a
Yeah,
lot of independent artists, that so they need to watch out and be careful what they're doing. Not just learn the trade, but learn the background of it. Protect yourself because at the end of the day, we're dealing with blood, we're dealing with humans, and human factors. A lot of times, if they could find a way to make money out of you, they'll do it.
for sure. And we see that all the time.
Yeah,
So, but no, man,
yeah.
listen, I appreciate it, man. I mean, even though I don't do that type of law, like go, but in my business, we do, like I said, personal injury accidents, motorcycle accidents, wrongful death cases, things of that nature. Typically, I don't go after the smaller, like the individual people like that. Well, it goes through insurance companies a lot of times.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it's like you said, we have to deal with those issues too because we get all types of clients. Some clients are legit hurt and it's a real claim. And some of them are like you listen to the story, you're like, come on, bro, like that didn't even sound right.
Yeah,
Like that, yeah. So we don't want cases that are BS claims either because one is bad for the system and two, it's not the reputation that I want.
yeah, yeah. You're right. All right, Mr. Eddie Reyes. It was
Yes,
a
sir.
pleasure having you here. You have anything else you want to talk about?
Well, I just want to add, if anybody has any questions or if we can help anybody in that way, our phone number is 833-4 bad day, which is 833-422-3329. You can find me on my social, the Reyes Firm, on Facebook, Instagram. I'm almost sure my TikTok is actually my TikTok is not the Reyes Firm. I don't know TikTok. My TikTok, I don't do
But
too
don't
much
worry.
TikTok.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually, when we go ahead, I'm gonna add all this.
Okay, bro.
I'm gonna write all that in links, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
write the links. I'm gonna do all that stuff, so it'll be easier, even in your area. When I go ahead and edit, I'm gonna
yeah.
put all the like the social media pages, your page, and everything else that's gonna be there. And
Perfect,
I
bro.
and I'll have your house address and your phone number,
Yeah, 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 yeah. My social, my date of
your
birth,
social, your blood
blood
type.
sample. I got you, bro. I got you. Yeah, I got you, bro. Listen,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
long as they document it into my app, the Med Legal Safekeep app, that's where they got to put it.
That's it. That's it. I love it. I love the thing about a bad day. That's awesome. That's really
Yeah,
cool. This was a pleasure, man. It was really cool doing this. I look forward to seeing you at Ink Mania Fest,
yes, sir.
April 25th. And you remember, we're gonna have a big lineup of musicians there. Some really good people, the B-boy battle and some car shows. It's not just tattooing, it's a full
Yeah.
festival going around.
Okay, brother. I look forward to it. We'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, you take care, man. Take care,
All right. Take
everybody.
care.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Kevin.
And recording.